City officials say over 100,000 asylum seekers have come to New York City since last year. As the city scrambles to accommodate the flood of new arrivals, many migrants find themselves sleeping on the streets in Midtown waiting for spots in shelters, while others are struggling to navigate schools and health care for their families.
Now, the White House is pushing back against New York officials who've been saying the federal government is not doing enough to help with the migrant crisis. They're urging New York to provide better information to migrants about the immigration process and to expedite their departure from city shelters. Joshua Goldfein is an attorney with the Legal Aid Society and joins us this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
I mean, we got to address first the biggest slap in the face by the Biden administration, specifically Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who is saying, no, it's you New York City officials. It's your problem. This is the reason why everything's so messed up, because you have all these issues in taking them efficiently. What can we do? What can we do better?
We have all three levels of government have a responsibility here and also an obligation to work together to help solve this problem. We have so many people who have been admitted to the United States legally and then told you're not allowed to work. You can't support your family. And as the mayor pointed out, that doesn't make any sense at all. The federal government could solve the problem, and the secretary himself could help solve the problem by making it much easier for people to get work authorization. They're already working, but we need them to be able to work in a way where they're not going to be exploited, have their wages stolen, or mistreated so that they feel like they can't go for help.
You make it sound like such an easy fix because the work authorization thing is such a huge problem. However, if it was such an easy fix, why isn't Alejandro Mayorkas doing that?
I'm sure there are political considerations involved as to why they don't.
Which would mean?
I think that they are very concerned about the upcoming election and how they look, but I think they have to understand that they're creating a problem that is also going to be used against them in an upcoming election. You know, the city and the federal government is not wrong that the city and the state could both be doing much more to help people who are already eligible for work authorization to apply for it and get it. They could be doing real case management to help people figure out what resources they have or help them get the resources they need. Everybody wants to work. Everybody has a plan for what they need to do. And if we would give them some assistance in doing that, they would be working and they would move out of shelter.
So let's talk about that. 100,000 migrants have arrived here since last year. How can the city actually help?
So in the regular shelter system that we already had, there is case management. So you come in, you say, I lost my apartment. They will sit down with you and say, okay, what do we need to do to get you out of the shelter and back into an apartment? And you know, sit down and assess what options are available to you. We don't do that for the new arrivals. Only recently has the city started to meet with people and have a conversation about what do they need to move on. And there are a lot of things that people could be doing that they may not know about. Like, many people are already eligible to apply for work authorization and they don't know that. Many people need some assistance in filling out the paperwork. Some people say they're you know, trying to get a commercial driver's license because then they know they would have a job. We just need to, you know, meet people where they are, and then they would move out more quickly. I mean, we wouldn't need to keep adding all of these new sites every day.
Well, let's go back to DHS, right, and their criticism of how the city and the state is handling the crisis. After Title 42 ended, the Biden administration enacted strict policies, right, where migrants, if they were caught illegally crossing, they would not be allowed to return for 5 years. Is that not being enforced?
So we have many fewer people crossing the border right now, and the people who do cross are eligible to apply for work authorization for the most part immediately, but they don't know that. And so
you're saying the people that have crossed have already checked in with this app, right? They're supposed to check it. I think it's called CPP1.
CPP1, exactly.
Yes.
Well, also, the fact that Title 42 changed, they're all saying that they're applying for asylum. The thing is now they put them on parole, so you have to go through that process too. So that change was only just to manage like the wording of it. I would love for you to get into our mayor and our governor pointing fingers at each other, because there are some issues there with the right to shelter law. The mayor is saying that this should apply to other counties within the state. The governor is saying that's not happening, that we are not going to force that to that burden upon other counties. Where do you stand within this?
You know, the right to shelter in New York derives from the New York State Constitution, and the Constitution applies statewide. Each local community, but also the state as a whole, the governor, have obligations to provide aid and care to the needy. Those are the words in the Constitution, and that includes shelter. It doesn't make sense to focus all of the arrivals on New York City.
Of course, yeah.
When people are coming, to New York State, they're arriving at New York State facilities. The governor complained that the mayor was haphazardly sending people to other communities around the state. She could take charge of that. She could issue an executive order that says, I'm setting the policy on where people go. I'm going to determine which communities are the best places for people to go.
But she was very clear on the fact that she was saying the city of New York and the Coalition of the Homeless decided this just for New York City. This doesn't apply to anywhere else. She was very clear on that.
Well, she is right that that particular court order that people were referencing only applies to New York. But that doesn't mean that the same legal analysis doesn't apply in the rest of the state. That claim was based on the New York State Constitution. The Constitution doesn't include a clause that says this only applies to New York City.
Gotcha.
It comes from the Depression when there were tens of thousands of people in the streets.
I mean, this is a humanitarian crisis, right, at this point. We got folks that are in the shelter system, and we got to find a way to move them out, even considering the fact that we are dealing with a housing shortage. As an immigration attorney, can you talk about some of the stories you're hearing and the people that you're helping on the ground right now?
Sure, and I should say I'm more of a housing attorney than an immigration attorney. So
excuse me.
What we see is that people have a plan of somewhere to go. It could be in New York City. Many of the arriving migrants are in New York City just because they were told to get on a bus that was going to New York City. But they are not interested in living in a large metropolitan area. They didn't know anything about New York City. They are willing and able to go to any other place where there's work, which is really what they want. And all over New York State, we have communities that have labor shortages, that have declining school enrollment, that need people in order for their town to be viable. And they would welcome people if they had, some coordination and assistance from the state.
I know you laid this out very easily for people to kind of follow along. Where can they get that information from?
On the Legal Aid Society's website has resources to help arriving migrants to deal with both their immigration cases and their benefits issues and whatever else they might need.
Mr. Joshua Goldfein, thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
It's a massive problem, but I know you're
Absolutely.
shedding some light on some of the issues that we're dealing with.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.